Hi, Travis with Splunk here. In this video, I want to go over some search commands that you can use with metrics data. And not only will I go over some of the commands, I'm going to bring up the documentation, but I also want to show you the Analytics tab inside of the Search and Reporting app that comes with Splunk Core. Now, if you haven't seen the previous videos that I've recorded, I have two of them where I take a single box, make it my indexer, my deployment server, and my search head, and then I set up the deployment server to deploy out the Windows and Linux TA technology add-on apps. And I have both security relevant logs being collected from the two boxes, but also I started collecting metrics data. And then I installed an app on that search head called IT Essentials Learn and IT Essentials Work. So this is kind of the follow-on video to that to start playing with the data I've got collected. But before we get going too much further, as always, let's dive into the documentation and kind of go over some of the commands that I'm talking about. First up is going to be the mstats commands. Let me get over here and just go out to your favorite search engine, whatever it may be. Do a search on Splunk documentation. Mstats should be the first link that comes up here. If not, I'm going to have all the links to this documentation below in my description as always. But mstats command is going to help you analyze that metrics data. It's going to be the primary command that you use. Now, I'm not like an expert with mstats. Heck, I'm not even an expert with the tstats command. I'm getting better. But here, make sure you are bookmarking this or, have some way to go back to this documentation to help you understand, the usage, get examples and whatnot. And you can see down here, here's some examples of the mstats command in use. Next, I will show, and we're going to talk about mpreview. So in the left-hand menu, you could have just went over here and clicked on mpreview. There's the mstats, here's mpreview, and this is a helpful command to give me an idea of what is the data that I am actually collecting. And I'll show you the command here in a minute, or maybe shorter. Depends on how long I talk. And we'll dive into it. But here, once again, you've got usage and then examples of what this command can do for you. Now, the last command I'm going to show documentation for is mcatalog. Now, if I go back over here to mpreview and scroll that left-hand menu, you won't see mcatalog here because it is, and I need to go back up to the top. It is an internal unsupported experimental command. And if you want to learn more about the internal commands, you can click on the link here and it'll take you to the documentation here to give you, some more information or other internal commands. And I'm going to go ahead and close that out. But mcatalog does have its use. It helps me understand what dimensions I have and metric names, and I'll go in and show you, examples and what it does. And there we go. There's the examples down here, and I'll be using, some of these in a search. With that, let's jump back over to Splunk Web, and I'm going to go into the Search and Reporting app here and just bring up a search bar. Now, your first thought may be to do something like index equals, and wherever you started sending your metrics data, I put it into ITSI IM metrics because in the previous video, I installed the IT Essentials Work app that created this index, and it uses this index. So I put all of my metrics data there. And when you run this search, it's going to give you an error message because this is a metrics index and not an event index. And so this command only works for event indexes. And we're going to have to start using that mstats command or mpreview or the mcatalog. But let's start with mpreview. And what I like about mpreview, and you'll see here once I spell it correctly, I'm just going to click on this one. There we go. It's going to do a search and just give me an idea of the raw data that's coming in and how it's organized. and you can see the metric name, OS name. We can start doing some, clicking on the fields over here on the left-hand side. OS name, Ubuntu. If I do that, now it's going to search for anything with Ubuntu in it. You'll notice it did come up and add another pipe and a search. That's because with the mpreview command, you can't just do a typical search like this. And that's where, I mean, it's limited what mpreview does, but its main purpose, or how I find it useful, is just to understand, what data is there when it's coming in. And then next, I'll talk about the mcatalog command real quick. And what I like about that, and I've got it copied over here instead of me just typing it all out. What I like about this one is it gives me an idea of what dimensions I have available to play with. And then if I replace this underscore dims, in which I just copied the search from, from here, but I added the where, because by default, I haven't set up this user to be able to search that metrics index by default. So I had to put the metrics, the index name in there. Anyway, if I come back here and say, metric underscore name, then I get an idea of all the different, metric names that I can use with my aggregation, with my averages, my max. So this is what I can use in there. So you could always do a, mcatalog, have this over here when you start playing with your mstats command. And mstats, let's take one of them. We'll say, let's just grab a random one here. I'm going to do idle. Sorry, being indecisive there. But I'm going to open up a new search and leave this one here. And I can just pipe mstats and then average. And you can see I've done these commands before. Type in the metric name. And then I am going to say where. I'm going to make it all cap. Index, so say that, and then ITSI underscore IM underscore metrics. Let's see what happens when I do that. I get a average CPU idle across all of my hosts. Now, if I go to visualization, it's not going to visualize in a column chart correctly. It's not going to do a line chart correctly with this command. This one's going to be good for maybe a single value. If I add the word span equals, and you can use auto, go look up the span parameter. I typically like to say like 1 minute, or if I'm doing a search that happens once an hour, I'll do 1 hour. But here I'll do 1 minute, and now I'm getting truncated. Now I'm getting a trending value with it. I can also go over here and click on my line chart and get a line chart of the activity and when when it was idle at 100% and when it wasn't idle. And you can see 1 minute it's very noisy. I could have said something like 10 minutes or 1 hour. This is where you've got to play with how detailed you want this search to be. With it being last 24 hours, 1 hour may work. If I come over here and say 60 minutes, 1 hour doesn't work as well. But 1 minute, I get a more granular feel for, when my devices became active, because idle is, 100%. And what I have going on is the Linux box that I'm using. In this example, I've got a thing called, and let me switch over to it, stress -ng. There's a lot of things you can do with this little program that will allow me to, oops, I need to go back. That was my indexer. There we go. Just run this, and I've been running this a few times so I can generate some data. Because I'm going to build an alert off of this, and I'll show you an easy way of doing that. Because right now, if I go back to Splunk Web, I could, start saving this already as a report or an alert. You can come in here and start adjusting the values to your current needs. But I'm going to show you another way that I actually prefer to create the alerts. And to be honest, I actually prefer this other way for writing, or not dashboards, but writing searches. And I let Splunk do it for me. So there's this analytics tab that we're going to go into. And this is going to allow me to just click on things. So if I don't know how to run the mstats command, because I'm actually not really the greatest with it, I'm getting better the more I play with it. And that's, you know, the biggest tip I can give is to practice, try it, fail, figure out why you failed, and just keep trying and trying different pieces when you are playing with the mstats command. Like there, I already closed it. But I was going to show you, even with that span, it took me a minute. I'm like, why am I not getting this? And then I figured out why. Here, back at the Analytics Workspace, we can start clicking on metrics. We can, find the data that we're looking for. If I want CPU data, if I want nothing for Ubuntu, I don't know. You can just try keywords in here if you would like. And the other thing that we can do is add a filter. So if I know there's a certain box that I want to use to build all of my searches, or if there's a dimension, that's where that mcatalog comes in and helps, the different dimensions that you have out there. But if I wanted to pick a certain box or an OS, I can filter down on that. So here OS, and then I can say Ubuntu. And when I hit apply, it's going to filter all of the different options in this menu to that OS name. I'm going to remove that filter, and then we're going to go down here to CPU metric. Now there is CPU metric for the Linux devices, but there's also another one for PS. Very similar to what they look like, and I'll show you. Let's say here user, and then if I click on PS metric, yeah, the output's very similar. I'd have to go through and check and see what the real difference is. I know right here, this is a percentage. You can see here, 0 to 100, while this one has, 0.25, 0.5. So you can decide which one you like better. But in the end, it's very similar information. We can, up top here, we can change the time range picker here. We can refresh this. This will even tell you last time these panels have been refreshed. And then there's split by. Split by allows me to do a global split by for all the panels that could be in here. And you can see as soon as I did that, I have host over here. Now, if I wanted to, if I click on one of these, we have the menu off to the right-hand side here. Here we can override that inherit global split by and say maybe, OS name. And you can see how that changes, and this one did not. Or we can just say none. Yeah, average. Or go back to inherit what you have at the global up top here. And then if we want to get rid of everything, clear all. So I'm going to put the CPU one back in place. And actually, I'll do this one up here. I don't know. Yeah, we'll just leave it that. And then the next grid is grid layout. Let me add maybe some more information from off to the left here. So used. There we go. And this one's kind of, let me on this one, yeah. There we go. But you can start adding and removing things depending on what you like and how you want to see this. Let's see, memory. Let's get a memory one in here. There we go. And now I can click the grid layout, which will put it in a grid. If I don't like the grid, and you can move these pieces around if you want. But if I don't like that grid, I can easily go to a stack layout. And then from here, I can save what I'm doing as a dashboard. So this global actions, the three little dots at the top, I can click on that and save these all as charts to a dashboard. So let's do that real quick. Save all, and let's say Nix health overview, whatever you want to call it. And then you can keep this private, share it in app. Now, let me click save, click view dashboard. I will tell you, when you build the dashboards in that analytics workspace, it does it in the classic simple XML dashboard panels. I mean, I don't know the timeline of getting it where you can choose between Dashboard Studio. You can build these searches in Dashboard Studio manually, or come over here, maybe copy them over there. But here, like I said, this is a simple classic XML dashboard. I'm going to click edit, and we're actually going to switch this to dark theme just to save my eyes from that bright white. Going back to that analytics workspace, there is other ways that we can use this workspace to help us learn the mstats command. Now, the three little dots at the top for the global action only gave me to save all the charts. However, if we start looking at the individual searches panels that we have built here, I can open this up in a new search. And this is where I can start to learn, how did Splunk build that panel out with my what I've clicked on and what I wanted to visualize. So here I have my mstats command doing an average on that CPU user information. You can start deleting stuff, and this is how I learn. You can start deleting stuff and rerun the search and see what it does. We can see here, if I click on visualizations, I'm not getting anything to help me to visualize these results. And the problem is that prestats equals true. As soon as I delete that part and rerun the search, I can get that visualization again. Now, I don't necessarily like how it just has host and average CPU here. Maybe I want all the host names over there. That's where, using that analytics workspace, and I'm going to back up and back up one more time, it built the time chart command to use the prestats. What does prestats do? Let's go back to our mstats command, do a search, and then find prestats, and it's a command. Well, it's an argument for the mstats command that adds the results from an existing set of results instead of generating new ones. So what that means to me, with mstats getting its results, prestats will add this down to the time chart. Now, if I'm wrong, somebody let me know. That's what it feels like to me. So here, if I were to take out the prestats equals true and leave the time chart, we'll do that and run it. It's going to break, or it's not going to do what I want. So you can, like I'm doing here, start ripping pieces out and see what it does. All right, so let's get back over to, I'm going to close this screen out here, and we're going to go back to this analytics workspace. Now I'm going to show you, my preferred method using analytics workspace to build out alerts. And the reason why, let's use this CPU measurement here, visualization, and let's click the three little dots. And like I said, you've got a lot of options here. We can even add this to a dashboard, but there is a save as scheduled alert. If I click on that, it gives me a preview panel, and it tries to figure out what I'd want to be alerting on, find the anomalies. You can adjust all of this. So let's go here first and say high CPU usage for NICs. Whatever you want. I've got another alert that I have running already to show you some of the results. Here we can give it a description. We can make it private. We can share it in an app. How often do you want to evaluate the metric? So do we want once an hour this is going to run, or do we want it every minute? And then what do we want to alert on? If I leave it at 6, you can see everything's highlighted. It's going to give you a lot of alerts. So if you're doing if you run this every minute, and then I'm looking at the last 10 minutes, I'm going to get a lot of alerts. And that's where you can throttle and suppress it. maybe, 1 hour, or, you know, take this down to 1 minute. If I'm running a minute and looking back a minute, I shouldn't have, I shouldn't be missing anything. If you want to do an overlap, like run it once, once a minute and look back 2 minutes, I'll let you decide, look back 5 minutes, or run it every 5 minutes and look back 10 minutes. You will have to decide, how often this alert needs to run and how far it needs to go back. Um, I'm, like I said, this is just something you'll have to decide. Work with the different teams that you are working with, and hey, how important is this box? How important is it to know this? What is the indicator? And also, is the indicator 50% that it goes above? And you can see in the preview now, I would only get alerted if the CPU usage went 50 and above, or is it 90? I don't really care until it gets at 90%, and then give me an alert when it's at that 90% so I can see what's going on. So we'll leave it at the 90. We're going to leave throttle, because if I have this running every 1 minute and it's looking back 10 minutes, I'll get the same alert for the same event. But if I throttle it, it'll don't alert me once, but don't remind me for another hour. It doesn't, I don't get overwhelmed by a bunch of alerts. And then trigger actions. This is where you're going to decide what to do with that alert. Now, there is a place in Splunk that we can go to with the triggered alerts and be able to review those. And we can change the severity, info, low, medium, high, critical. I'll put it on critical, and we can see, hey, if it's above 90% on CPU usage on a box, it's a critical problem. We can also add other actions. So if I click that, you get a bunch of different options here. You can ping a host, run a script. If you have IT service intelligence, we can do some stuff in there. We can send to Splunk Mobile. I have that running in my home lab, where I get alerts from my home environment to my phone. And then if you have, if at work, or if you've purchased orchestration automation platform, Splunk SOAR, you can have it sent over to Splunk SOAR to run a playbook. Say if it's running at 90%, and usually the fix is to restart a service, have that playbook go in and SSH into the box and restart the service. So you'll have to work with the different teams and figure out what you need to do. So we can click save, and now that's going to create our new alert. We can click show alert, and you can see it right there. It's got the little alert icon and what it's going to alert on. We could click on the three little dots, open this up in search, edit this alert, and start working on it again. Another way that we can find this alert, if we somehow were to close this down, is go up to settings, and I'm going to open this up in a new tab, and you can click on, yeah, there we go. It already brought it up because I'm in the Search and Reporting app. I created this in the Search and Reporting app. If you would have had it maybe selected in IT work or something, or a different app, you may not see it. So I'll say learned. It may not show up there, so make sure you are in the correct app. You can even just say all. And then you can, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of saved searches, and that's built into IT Essentials work. Come up here and click type and say alerts. And then you can start finding. If you are not the administrator and you're just, whoever you are, you can always select your name and see which ones you've created as well. So here we have 2 alerts. Since this one has been running since yesterday, and I have a stress test that's running on the box that I can go out there and log in and tell it to run the stress test. Here, let me go Nix. I don't know if I showed this, but here, that's it right there, and that's where I've been running it a few times. And it's just a stress ng. But let's go back to Splunk Web. And I can see, I need to edit this alert. I can click from here and start working on this alert. Here's a search that's running this alert. I can copy this and copy it into a new search and start working on it. I can adjust, the time range. I can adjust the cron schedule. Cancel. I can also see that I have 5 alerts that's fired. I can say view recent. Here is the searches that in my job, so I can see how the searches are running. Now, if I want to see that triggered action, from here, we can make it also, before I go any further, we can also tell it to run again right now. But if I wanted to see the 5, because there's nothing in here I can click on to get there, all I would have to do is go up to activity to see those 5 alerts. So activity, and then there's jobs, which I was just in when I clicked on view recent, and then there's triggered alerts. Once I click on that, I can start seeing each time that alert has fired. And you can view the results. So I can click on view results. It's going to take me to the Analytics Workspace and show that alert and give me information that I needed. Last thing I want to go over in this video is IT Essentials work. Let's go back to this first tab here. And when you open, I'll click on Splunk Enterprise and click on IT Essentials work. When you open this app, it's going to go to Infrastructure Overview. Now you'll have the different entity types, and you can hide these different tiles if there's no entities, which is all of your universal for your different endpoints. And these entities get found by searches that run in the background. And then it will bring it in, depending on the search, and line it up with the entity type accordingly. So here you can group by entity type, or you can say group by none, and just get a list of all the different boxes. Click around, play on this to get a better understanding. Now, IT Essentials work, if I go back, or I don't have to go anywhere, it's just at the top here. You'll see Service Analyzer, you'll see Glass Tables, Deep Dives. These are all features of IT Service Intelligence. So what Product Team has done is they have created a feature-reduced version of IT Service Intelligence and called it IT Essentials Work. When you decide you want to move from just understanding when a computer is going above a certain CPU threshold or whatnot, and you want to start monitoring stuff as a service, that's where you buy a license for the premium app that will unlock all these additional features. My recommendation is to work on getting deployment server, getting all of the TAs pushed out, get the metric data collected, getting it, populating these different entity groups that you want, and then look at IT Service Intelligence. Get the data in, start playing with it, and then take that next step. Don't get ahead of yourself. So here I can click on one of these entity types. Let's say Unix and Linux add-on. I can go back and click on the Windows, and I can start gleaming information from this. Memory, CPU utilization, disk utilization. I can click on a box and do a drill down and get further information about that box. And you can see a lot of good information here. You can open these searches up. So if I click on CPU utilization here and click on the magnifying glass, I can open the search up as well and see how it was created. Now, I will say there is and I'm going to jump back to infrastructure overview here. And every time you reload it, it's going to uncheck the hide entities. But I'm going to click on this Unix Linux add-on. This is Travis talking. I don't, in my opinion, agree with how they are, looking at the metrics for here for disk utilization. Now, it just may be you have to create a search that encompasses a lot of different flavors of Unix and Linux. But once you start bringing the data in, and I noticed that I'm at 100%, if I drill down, and it says it down here as well, and these are called vital metrics, and I'll show you more about that here in a second, but I'm going to drill down into this box. And let's close the entity information, and you can see right here under disk utilization here is a little bit different. And then here we have a line at 100%. And then I have another line down here at roughly, I think it is 39 if I remember, because I've clicked on this a few times. I can easily go and expand this menu down, or click down and see that dev/root is my lower number. And if I go out to that Linux box, and I can do that right now and do a df-h, you can see that there is these dev loop, and you can go Google what dev loop is. This is not information that I need to use to calculate how much hard drive space I have available for a box in my environment. So I'm going to adjust this search. Now, if I go back to my Splunk web, you cannot adjust this dashboard. You can't find this dashboard to adjust it. You can look all you want. I've tried, talked to product team. I can't adjust this. I can't change this disk utilization, so you'll just have to make a mental note and know, hey, I'll just have to ignore this stuff when I come in here. Now there is, maybe another option where you can build your own view and then link it to that. Or if you want, we'll go back to that infrastructure overview and adjust these vital metrics for the Nix add-on. So I'm going to do that with disk utilization right here and here, because I believe it uses the same, if I remember correctly, it uses the same search to power both of these. So where we have to go for that is underneath configuration. And if you haven't clicked on configuration yet in IT Essentials work, there's a lot of things that you can adjust from inside of here. The services, that's really an ITSI thing, building out a service. So if you have, say, a web application, or you have a program of record, and you have multiple pieces of web database, application server, all these different pieces, you can start building key performance indicators to show that service is healthy or not. That's another video for another day. So here we do have entity management, and that's where I'm going to go into. You can now see all the entities that are being found by searches running into the background. Said I plan on going into all of this in another video. What I'm going to click on now is entity types. And from here, I can see that Unix Linux add-on. I can see there is one device, which is correct, that's underneath this add-on. I can click on edit and see what the entity type name is, the description, and even those vital metrics. And if I expand disk utilization, if you click on a little crayon here, it's not all you're going to do is just edit the name. So I'm going to say save, and then I'm going to click and expand everything here, which will give me what am I matching for the fields, and then the search that is running. I'm going to copy this search, and I'm going to click run search, and you can see that 100%. We are going to now take this search and jump over to another, I can open up another fresh search bar here, run it, and see that yes, I am getting those 100% values. And in that search, we can see the mstats command. It's looking for the max, and it's renaming it as val. And then we're looking into a macro here. You can find these macros, but this macro is basically pointing to index equals, well, it has index equals ITSI underscore IM metrics, and then and file system, all file systems. So what I could do, if I wanted to, if I only have one file system that I'm curious about, I could say dev/root, but maybe you're going file system. I'm really still that new. We can start running another search and figure out, what is the, in those file systems. Let's go and use that mpreview command. So here I'm gonna say And I had the search already saved, so I didn't have to type it out again. And we can see mpreview, and what I've done, I'll go back here, is basically copy this metric name, and maybe I should have just typed out instead of just copying the search, but copy this metric name, and then jump over here and do my mpreview on the index that has the data, do a search on metric underscore name, and then that metric name. And then here I can see my file system. I could take it one step further and say top values and see the top values. There we go, static, and show you the different ones that are out there. If maybe I need to say 20, there's only 10. There's dev root right there. But then I have dev loop 7, 6, 5, and so on. So I'm going to go back to this search here. I've got that dev root in there, and now I'm going to rerun this search. Now my value is 39 because it's only going on that one file system. But maybe that's not the way I should do this. Maybe I should, instead of doing an inclusion here, because I can do file system like this, or I could have said file system in wrap this. This is the same thing. However, now I can start, if I wanted to add different, say dev loop 1, I can start adding those, different file systems in there. Or maybe I could have done an exclusion here. So let's do that. I'll wrap that in. Don't think I have to have it, but I'm just going to do it anyway. Let's do a star. And then in front of the file system, not in all caps, rerun that. And now I get everything that's not dev loop. So if I add a hard drive that may be on another file system, I don't miss it. And this is where we can go into, and I'm going to copy this one little section. We can go back to entity management and adjust this search. Oops. There we go. There we go. File system. And I'm going to paste that in there. And then I am going to run this search and see what number I get. And voila. I want to make sure I click save. It's going to update this entity type, and it'll tell you if it's successful or unsuccessful, which this was successful. So I'm going to dismiss. I'm actually going to go back into edit of that Unix Linux add-on and show you down here where here is that Unix and Linux add-on overview. I have no actions for it. Now I could come in here and create another one. Oh, maybe, what if I have health? What did I call that one? Nix. Yeah, I'd have to go see if I can find that other. Maybe I need to put that dashboard underneath the. Yeah, maybe I need to put that dashboard underneath the IT Essentials Work app. But you can create another dashboard, find it, and then bring it into here. And there's other things that we can do in here. This is just a good spot to kind of play around or build your own entity type and then start playing around with all of this. So now I'm going to click cancel. I'm going to click on infrastructure overview. And once it comes up and I click on Unix and Linux add-on, there we go. And I feel like this is a better representation of this one box. And you will have to go in and adjust this to your needs or how it's showing up. But I just really wanted to show you how you can adjust that. Going back to configuration tab here, I didn't show off data integrations yet. Now this is a way to understand how to get data in, and then there is this content library that you will see. Once again, here is Unix and Linux. If you click on one of those, it'll tell you, hey, use Splunk add-on for Unix and Linux. If you watched my previous video, I actually configured this app to start sending in metrics data. If you haven't watched that and you started here, you can go and see all this information or go find that other video of mine. And then once you get data in, and then clicking the back button takes me here. So I'm gonna click on configuration again and then say data integration. There is this content library. Now I don't have anything listed in here. If I were to jump to my home environment, I'd actually have content packs loaded. And what is a content pack? Let's click on, let's see here. Not exactly where I wanted to go. Oh, there it is. Splunk content packs for ITSI Essentials work. So it was. I was just not seeing it. If we click on that, this is our documentation, Splunk's documentation around the content packs and what they offer. And what it is just a prepackaged KPIs, services, dashboards, searches for different data sets that you may be collecting. So there's like monitoring Microsoft Windows. There is a Unix Linux app. And I do plan on creating another video loading this content pack up into my Splunk environment here and going over those different pieces in IT work. And then eventually I will drop a license into this environment and show you IT service intelligence. It'll just take me a little bit to start creating those videos. But here you can read more about the content pack, which in probably the next videos, I'll go over this again. And another thing that you can do is go back out to Splunk base. So let me do that. So actually, I think there's a link right here. So if I click on Splunk base, here is the app for content pack. And make sure you read the instructions, which that's why I'm going to do another video, is it's very similar to how you do the installation of IT Essentials work. I believe when I start to do the install for this, you're going to have to do a Splunk stop, untar, and put that out there and then restart Splunk. So with that, I hope you have found this video helpful. Give you a little bit more information about how to use some of the Splunk commands around your metrics data, how to use the Analytics Workspace, which I really do enjoy, and it's found it very helpful for me to learn those different commands I went over. And as always, happy spelunking.